Hello, and thank you for watching this Corn Belt Regional Forecast. I'm Andrew Pritchard, meteorologist with Nutrien Ag Solutions. So we check in with the jet stream here on this Friday morning. Again, we continue to watch a pattern that brings a lot of cold air into the Midwest. I'm not sure what's happening with this little glitch here, but we're going to roll with it. Again, just watching the source region here, all of this air across the Midwest over the next 4 to 5, 6 days. Source region here coming from the very cold Arctic as we continue to force a lot of warm air northward. Record highs being set in Anchorage, Alaska. At the same time, that warm air being shoved northward has to displace a lot of cold air. It's got to go somewhere, and that somewhere is right here in the eastern 2/3 of the United States. As again, we deal with the first wave of Arctic air right now, getting a slight reprieve as we head into the weekend. But then by the time we get to late Sunday into Monday and then into early next week, watching that next round of very cold air spill in across the Corn Belt all the way to the south and to the east coast. So that is the pattern. That is what we are talking about. It's a lot of cold air across the Corn Belt. Here's your 10-day temperature forecast. Again, keeping those temperature anomalies 10 to 20 degrees colder than average, locked in across the Corn Belt, essentially everywhere along and east of the Rocky Mountains here, dealing with this very, very cold air mass. And then, like I said, the yin to the yang here is some very warm air being forced northward here across parts of the west coast, all the way into portions of Alaska, and then north and west from there. So it is a balancing act here. You know, while we've got this very cold air here, there are parts of the country dealing with some very warm air at this very same time. Now, it's a cold, dry Arctic air mass, one not supportive of very strong or very significant precipitation events, but that doesn't mean we don't have some to talk about here. And the bulk of that's going to be coming from this next wave of very cold Arctic air, bringing the chance for some light snow here, primarily across the Dakotas, and then getting some influence here from not only an area of low pressure developing across the south here, and kind of riding along that polar front, but also from some of the very warm lake waters here and some of the Great Lakes. So talking about maybe some light accumulating snow across the Dakotas, and then also we'll have to talk about the potential for some accumulating snow here, a light in nature across parts of the eastern Corn Belt, across the Great Lakes, perhaps as far south as parts of Kentucky and Tennessee, but getting much, much less likely across that region. We'll talk about that here in a moment. But as you kind of look down here at the next 10 days as well, not much difference. And again, that is because the pattern here across the Corn Belt dominated by high pressure, dominated by a very cold, dry Arctic air mass. Now, the last 48 hours of precipitation, most notably across the Corn Belt, we saw some rain making its way across the Ohio River Valley here along the first front here, making its way through over the last 24 to 48 hours, seeing some rain across this region yesterday. Also picking up a band of some accumulating snow here, several inches from parts of South Dakota through Minnesota, Iowa, and into southern Wisconsin and Michigan. As we check in with the current snow depth, again, just looking at some light snow on the ground here in that corridor still from the Dakotas into parts of Minnesota, Iowa, southern Wisconsin, and Michigan. And again, we'll be talking about the potential for another round here, and then perhaps some additional snow in this region. Looking at the satellite picture then on Friday morning, again, we've got a subtle disturbance kind of sneaking through the Great Lakes right now, bringing some cloud cover to this region, maybe some light snow in that region as well as we head through the next 24 to 36 hours. And then as well, bringing some very cold air across the Great Lakes here, seeing some lake effect clouds and some lake effect snow in this region as well. And then, of course, here is our main frontal boundary, currently sitting across the deep south here, lifting up across the Atlantic Ocean just off of the east coast. So checking in with the radar then, again, you know, you kind of squint, move your eyes close to the screen, you can pick up some of the bands here of lake effect snow across the Great Lakes. You can also pick up maybe some light snow showers falling across parts of Minnesota and Wisconsin. No real significant precipitation right now across the Great Lakes or across the Corn Belt, unless, of course, you find yourself, you know, in one of these 1 mile wide bands of potentially significant snow here across parts of the Great Lakes. And then otherwise, you got to head all the way to the deep south if you're looking for some more significant precipitation, that where they're still dealing with some rain showers, which should quickly continue to move off to the south and east, getting out of here by the end of the day today. Now, checking in with the temperatures, again, here's that frontal boundary. That is the front that had cleared the Corn Belt over the last couple of days. And some brutally cold air already sitting across parts of the Great Lakes. If you look here, some of that influence from the fresh snowpack here across Wisconsin, sending temperatures below zero in parts of central Wisconsin, at the very least, single digits widespread across the area. And that's something we got to kind of keep an eye on as we talk about the potential for some light snow in this region here as we get this next front moving through Sunday and Monday. The potential here, we're talking about low temperatures getting into the teens and single digits, but should we add another layer here? Should we overachieve a little bit with some of this snow on Sunday and Monday? The influence of that very cold snowpack and the very large area of high pressure over here could lead to some overachieving in terms of some of the overnight low temperatures getting into early next week. So very, very cold across parts of the Great Lakes as we wake up this morning. And I would say cold at its most basic level across the entire Corn Belt as we look at widespread temperatures in the teens and the 20s across what we'd consider the entire Corn Belt right now as we wake up on Friday morning. And again, that because this first large high pressure cell sitting across the Corn Belt here with the core of that right over the mid-Mississippi Valley. And as we kind of play this out, the pattern that we've watched over the last, year or so, honestly, the problematic pattern has been the reloading of areas of low pressure, bringing significant precipitation to the Corn Belt. And this pattern, albeit that we don't necessarily see a signal that this is going to be the troublesome pattern for the next year, but this reloading of these large high pressure cells diving out of the Canadian prairie, this is just bringing reloading, reinforcing shots of cold Arctic air. So we take this through the next week or so, and again, we watch this first area of high pressure continue to kind of be washed out and moved off to the east, but turning our attention then to the Canadian prairie as we head through the weekend, as they deal with some extremely cold temperatures over the weekend in that area. Watching this next area of high pressure just make its way on down, kind of riding along and east of the Rockies, and then parking itself right over the Corn Belt once again by the time we get to early next week, right around the Monday through Wednesday timeframe. Now, the precipitation associated with that, again, watching this dominant area of high pressure right now across the centered over the mid-Mississippi Valley. Clockwise flow around that, again, bringing some very cold Arctic air over the top of the Great Lakes. That is what is contributing to the lake effect snow here on Friday. And then also seeing the flow here, kind of, again, meeting with the Gulf moisture, and that is what is leading to the showers across this region that produced some more heavy rain just off to the north yesterday. So that's the pattern as we wake up here on Friday morning. But let's go ahead and we'll take this into early next week and beyond. Let's go a little bit slowly, though, starting off with the weekend here, watching a minor disturbance here that, I kind of mentioned here, potentially bringing some light snow to, let's go ahead and flip this over to blue. Light snow to parts of the Great Lakes here, maybe some lake effect snow here along the lakes here as we head through the weekend. Elsewhere across the Corn Belt for the weekend, expecting quiet conditions and honestly a slight warm-up possible across parts of the Corn Belt as we see an area of low pressure kind of sneaking through. So flow around that. Again, bringing some warmer air in from the southwest, seeing just a little tongue of warmth trying to move in here. Parts of the mid-Mississippi Valley here, seeing temperatures warm back to the 40s and 50s as we head through the weekend. But on the backside here, this is where the next round of reinforcing shot of cold polar air comes in as we head into early next week. So here it comes. Here's the next area of high pressure, right now making its way across the prairies. Flow around that, seeing some snow now falling across the Dakotas and some of the high plains. This would be on Sunday into Monday night. Now, as we get into Monday afternoon, watching this front now sliding through parts of the mid-Mississippi Valley. Here's the area of high pressure. Again, very strong clockwise flow around that. You see the very tightly packed isobars in this region. That Monday is going to be just a tough day to bear when you're outside. A very blustery day. Temperatures falling as the front moves through, and then the potential for some snow to fall across parts of the Corn Belt here. Again, talking about the potential for maybe some accumulating snow in this region, especially with influence from the lakes here, but at the very least, maybe seeing some light snow flurries and a light coating of snow as far south as parts of Missouri into the Ohio River Valley here. Again, we'll have to watch this potential here across parts of Kentucky and Tennessee as we get into Monday night and Tuesday morning. By the time we get to Tuesday, now this area of high pressure parked across the Corn Belt again. We can do the same thing, the clockwise flow around that, bringing very cold Arctic air across the Great Lakes, seeing some lake effect snow here as we head into Tuesday and Wednesday. Again, the very tightly packed isobars across the Corn Belt here, leading to blustery conditions across the Dakotas as we go through the day on Tuesday. And again, with a very cold air mass here, dealing with some just brutally cold air and wind chill values here that could be dropping below zero and across a large chunk of the Corn Belt. Taking this into the end of the week, though, again, high pressure really dominating the story. The potential that we could see another weak or subtle system make its way through here Wednesday and Thursday, delivering just some light snow showers to the Dakotas and upper Midwest. but generally keeping things pretty dry across the Corn Belt. Really just watching this Friday, Saturday Clipper system here across the Dakotas and the Great Lakes. Then watching the potential here across parts of the High Plains and the Dakotas, getting into Sunday and Monday. Watching the potential in this region here along that front as we get into Monday and Tuesday, and then taking things into Tuesday and Wednesday. I'll draw the Monday-Tuesday region here, and then Tuesday again watching for some lake effect snow as very strong northwest flow moves over the top of the still not yet frozen waters of the Great Lakes. So a couple areas we're watching for some minor snow here, accumulation of several inches, but that may have an impact then when we get this next front to come through, perhaps sending some of these areas well below zero, or if we're talking about the eastern Corn Belt, talking about temperatures in the single digits as we get into Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday mornings. So let's go ahead, we'll look at the total accumulated precipitation here, liquid precipitation just over the next week, so taking it into next Friday. Again, you see the corridors here, seeing the highest here with some lake effect influence, and then back here across parts of the High Plains. Elsewhere, attempts or potentials here for some light snow, likely just trace amounts as we look at the total accumulation forecast. This from the European model, not focusing so much on the amounts that it's spitting out, but just focusing again on the regions here that we're looking for the potential for maybe some heavier snow. And when we say heavier, I'm talking about 2, 3, 5 inches, perhaps higher as we look at some of the lake effect influence here in some very isolated areas. But generally looking at areas kind of along and north of this line for the best chance of a trace to several inches of snow here as this front makes its way through here Sunday through Tuesday. We can look at the probability then from both the European long-range model and the GFS ensembles here, looking at the probability of snowfall over 3 inches, taking it through the next week. Again, the primary contributing factor here going to be that Sunday through Tuesday front. And this again highlights the best chances being found with agreement here between the two models. Higher probabilities found back towards the High Plains, centered over Montana, getting into the western Dakotas. Then you have to head over to the Great Lakes here in the eastern Corn Belt to find your next region with higher probabilities, getting above 75% for 3 inches or more of snow. Elsewhere, just picking up on low probabilities, generally along and north of this line, where maybe we could see a trace to an inch or two as this front makes its way through early next week. Taking a look at the temperature anomaly forecast, then this will wrap up this video, but just watching the core of these very cold air masses. Right now, again, that area of high pressure parked over the mid-Mississippi Valley, and as such on Friday, the coldest, anomalously cold air being found over that same region of the mid-Mississippi Valley, the Great Lakes, and the eastern Corn Belt. Again, we'll take this through the weekend, watching this small warm-up try to make its way in. Again, we talked about an area of low pressure kind of situated over this area, seeing some warmer flow come in from the southwest, trying to bring a minor warm-up, but again, taking parts of the Central Plains into central Illinois here, back into the 40s and 50s as we head through the weekend. But that next front makes its way in late Sunday into Monday, bringing the next core of the very brutally cold air mass. Look at this, again, 20 degrees cooler than average across a widespread area of the central and eastern U.S. And as we just play this out, taking it into the end of the week, we're into Thursday and Friday. If you want some good news, the extremely cold air doesn't sit here for more than a few days, but if you're looking for a rapid warm-up, that doesn't seem to be in the cards at this point. It does look like we'll see some moderation across parts of the Canadian Prairie into the High Plains here, getting into the Dakotas, but as we look at areas along and east of that line from Kansas up to Minnesota, and then on into the eastern half of the United States, again, at least into next week and next weekend, getting into November 16th and 17th, holding on to at least a slightly colder than average pattern. So again, the brutally cold air looks like it's going to have the core here over the Corn Belt here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. But as we head into Thursday, Friday, into next weekend, getting into the middle of November, still looking like we'll keep a colder air mass kind of parked over the region, so no rapid warm-up at this point. We'll finish then with a look at high temperatures, just taking it into early next week. Your highs for the day today on Friday, warming up to near 60 degrees across the High Plains, coldest as you head off to the north and to the west, where temperatures are in the 20s and 30s. As we head into the weekend, again, here you see that warm air trying to make its way in as we go through parts of Saturday and Sunday. Your Sunday high temperatures now in the 50s and 60s off to the south, with that next round of cold air making its way in We get into Monday, high temperatures now in the teens and 20s across the Corn Belt, south of that in the 40s and 50s, and then the front making its way into the entire Corn Belt here by Tuesday with high temperatures in the teens and 20s across a large area here from the Dakotas into the Mid-South. Overnight low temperatures then again taking it back to the weekend here, looking at Saturday morning low temperatures below freezing across essentially the entire Corn Belt, the exception being found across parts of Colorado, Nebraska, and Kansas. Waking up on Sunday morning with temperatures above freezing along and south of this line here, below freezing in the Dakotas and the upper Midwest. Talking about Monday morning low temperatures. And then Tuesday morning is the morning that concerns me across parts of this region here, where if we were to overachieve with some snowfall across parts of central Illinois into Indiana and Ohio, it'd be this region here that may overachieve, seeing low temperatures in the single digits as we head into, again, Tuesday morning and Wednesday morning. As always, Eric Snodgrass will have an in-depth look at the evolution of the next 1 to 2 weeks in our Monday Morning Ag Forecast video, and I will be back to talk about the Corn Belt specifically on Tuesday morning. Have a great day and a wonderful weekend.